Hi, um, John Tyler with Checklist Inspections. We're going to talk about how to read your mold report. So we come into homes if we are asked to do air quality or surface testing up on homes, and we send it to a certified laboratory. In this case, we happen to use ProLab out of Florida. So one of the reasons we use this lab is they understand the turnaround times for real estate. They were designed to help out real estate transactions. So ProLab on the first page will tell you your certificate of analysis, some required things to show that they are a certified lab. And really, page 2, when you get a mold analysis or air quality report, you want to just know, are you high or not? Do I have to remediate? Do I have to take action or not? And that's on page 2. So page 2, you can make it really fast and look at the conclusion line in red. And that's what really matters right off the bat. And we'll always have a control. A control is our test that we do on the exterior of the home of an air sample, because there is no such thing as high or low spore counts in and of themselves, because certain parts of the country are naturally higher with certain types of molds just floating in the air than others. So think of a very humid climate. There's a lot that could just be growing up on the ground or outside environment. So we want to take a control. We take our control from the exterior, and that gives us a baseline. Then we take samples from interior of the home. In this case, we have 2 samples from the interior of the home, and both are listed as not elevated. So they're looking at 2 things. They're looking at the ratio and types they find outside and compare it to the ratio of what they find inside. Then they really care about what types are inside, because there are a few types of mold spores that are associated with both health problems or associated with not naturally growing at high rates outside. So we want to then find out what's inside by type as well as ratio. The big ones, Stachy or Stachybotrys, that everyone's concerned about, the black mold, that typically doesn't have much on the exterior. You need a nice dark area and a lot of time with moisture for it to grow. And so we look at the types of molds that happen to be floating in the air, compare it to also what's outside. As you can see here, we have molds that are just outside floating, and we have lower rates on the interior of those same types. So we do not have any elevated. By the way, typically interiors have can have more, especially of certain types, than exteriors, and that's considered completely normal. So your home has plumbing traps, so there's always a little moisture coming out there just to increase a little bit of humidity. Not much, but it does make a small difference. As well as we bring foods in the home. So you can have some types of molds that are a little bit higher inside than there are outside. And it's because a few days ago you had a little bit of a moldy orange that you tossed out, or some bread got some mold on it, you toss it out. We look at the types of molds, because having higher amounts of a typical food mold that can grow on bread isn't really our major health concern. Those are pretty fast growing, and they just don't have the same health problems as some other molds that take quite a bit of time, dark, wet areas to grow. So we do really care about types. In this house, not elevated on both. On swabs, it'll tell you unusual or not, because they don't do a count on swabs or tapes. So if you see something physically growing, we can either take a swab or tape, send that to the laboratory. We like combining that with air sampling. And so we'll see, hey, there's unusual, and that means there are actual mold spores on it, compared to being, something that's not unusual. It may have been black. It could have been a little bit of paint overspray, maybe dump that whole part. So we know it's not mold when we're sending that over. So in conclusion, our big is a look at that conclusion line. Are you elevated or not on page 2? If you have any questions, give us a call. We'd be more than happy to help out. When you do get those reports and you're wondering what types of molds these are growing, later on in the report, it goes through the types of molds that are found. where they typically grow in the outdoors or the indoors, any potential problems, how common do we find it? For instance, this is probably our most common mold that we happen to find floating everywhere. It's pretty rare that we don't see a few of these molds, and these are all pretty common as they go through.